you go. That's what's gonna look like. So they went with that. I thought that was a good choice. That was my favorite choice. That's why I put it as design one. And that's why today's exciting, because my neighbors, not Mr. Cliff, who I share plants with, we know Mr. Cliff, but my other neighbors, my neighbors right here. Nope, wait, that's my other neighbors. You can't even see. The ones who you always see the pickup truck in the shots. Those neighbors, they asked me to redo one of their flower beds. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna take a typical Florida suburban urban bed and we're gonna do something with it. And I'm gonna take you through how I'm gonna integrate Florida native plants into that standard kind of bed. About a year and a half ago or so, they had their house painted. They went and had some like stuff done at the front of the house, and they needed to redo some of the landscaping around the house. So they went to their friend who had just gotten their yard done, and the guy was like, yeah, the person I used was great. And so they were like, sure, cool. And they went with that person. They seemed really knowledgeable. They went to a nursery. They pointed at plants that they thought looked good. They had them put in, and here we are a year and a half later, and it's not looking so good. And now we get into where I come in. So about a year ago, my neighbor Shane, he basically saw me one day, I think I was walking the dogs, and he said, hey, you know a lot about plants. Like, do you know what's happening here? And I took a look at his plants. I had no idea what these plants were. And I just looked at them and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what they are, but if I was gonna guess, I'm gonna guess they're sunburn. And he's like, sunburn? Really? Plants get sunburn? And I was like, yeah, plants get sunburn. I then came back and figured out what they were. They're called Triostar Stromanthe, name here, which is a houseplant. And what was very clear is that Triostar likes shade. And that spot in their yard was not a deep shade area. I wouldn't even, it's got shade part of the day and then it's got some full sun part of the day. But I think this is what happens to people, right? They go like, gardening in Florida's hard, or gardening in the subtropics is hard, because we do stuff like this. We take a plant that likes shade and we shove it in the sun and then it dies and we're surprised. But again, this goes back to like, most people aren't horticulturists or biologists or whatever you need to be a landscaper, right? They just want to pick out a pretty plant and be like, it does good. So here, fast forward to today, and he was just like, hey, we're gonna have one of our beds redone. Like, it's just not working. The things are all dead, those plants that you went and figured out. He's like, it just doesn't look good. And then he came back like a week or two later, and then he was like, hey, would you do it? Cause like, we like your yard. They like my yard. Proving the point of all those people who sit there and are like, oh my God, your neighbors probably don't like it. No, but they do. And he was like, you know what? Instead of paying some random person, we'll pay you. You just like redo it. I was like, seriously? He's like, yeah. And I was like, well, what do you want? And he's like, I don't know. So here's kind of what I'm thinking. And I'll tell you what I thought, what we did, and what we're gonna do. So here's the thing. My neighbors, Shane and Kim, great people. They work a lot of hours. They've got a 1-year-old. They've got dogs. You know, they got a lot. They don't want to do all this. I figured that out. They're like, I feel like a lot of people. They just want their yard to look nice. They don't want to have to do a ton for it. They have someone who mows the lawn. So it's got to be something that like maybe once a month at most they're going to deal with, but less would be better, right? So where does your brain go when you think about that? Of course, Florida native plants, because then we could do some things, right? Because like I said, it's them right there. I've already got a bunch of butterflies. I've already got a bunch of bees, and I'm increasing the amount of birds I've got right now. So it's only a matter of time for those things to get like, you know, just over here. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go and put some new plants today. But first, what I'm gonna talk you through is kind of what we did as part of the design, because I actually proposed a couple different designs because I was like, hey, it's their front yard. And as much as Shane and Kim were like, no, just do whatever. Like, come on, it's their yard. Like, we're gonna, right? So let's go take a look at the area. So this is my neighbor's house. It's a very nice looking house. It's a very pretty looking house. And it's kind of got the standard stuff that we would see in a lot of Florida yards, right? We've got the grass that everybody has. You know this grass. We also have this like big old oak to deal with. And then we have this area. And this was the area that was redone by the landscaper. So they put in some lantana. I don't remember what that kind of standard exotic shrub is. These shrubs were existing. These palms were all existing. And then they had those trio stars put in. And here's what you can see is left of them. They are so sad. You see it right there? So sad. And now what has happened is every spot where they have this gravel mulch, you can see everywhere that there's been a hole is some other plant has tried to get in here. Mostly it looks like oak acorns, plus some other random stuff. And that's what's really going on. But we're gonna leave that. We're not touching any of that. We're just gonna focus on this section right here. And you can see it's got a very symmetric look, right? We got 2 windows, we've got 2 palms, and then we got this hedge. So we really had to figure out what we were gonna do to make it look pretty and keep it low maintenance. And one of the other challenges that we needed to deal with is the fact that we have this gravel mulch, right? And while a lot of people, when they think about putting in gravel mulch, it seems like it's gonna be easier, in the long run, it's way harder, or it's really bad for the environment. Because you just, in order to make it stay looking like nice, you just have to keep like dumping pesticides on it and buying new gravel, because in Florida, just the speckle of dirt, and all this nonsense starts happening, okay? So the other challenge I needed to work with when we were figuring out plants was, what do we do? Because this also, because it's a gravel mulch, is that it's creating more heat than like what your standard wood mulch bed or grassy area would have. So we need plants that are gonna deal with a little bit hotter. It's not a full sun area. It's definitely on the light end of semi-shade. The oak's doing a very good job of giving me some shade right now. And then what we need to do is we're gonna work around our existing plants. Now, y'all remember from when I did my video on shopping for native flowers, remember I said I spent like a lot of time at Little Red Wagon? Thank you, James, because him and I actually spent a lot of that time there, not looking for plants for me, but actually looking for plants for Shane and Kim, because what I wanted to do was try to make sure I looked at all my options. So I live in Zone 10A, Pinellas County, St. Petersburg, and I wanted to make sure like I just didn't lean on the plants that I've done before, because in my head I was like, okay, what has flowers? Good ground cover, what could work here? It would be like something that they would want to deal with, you know. So I started going immediately to things like Dune sunflower. But we know from Dune sunflower, from my experience, right, is this plant is planted inside there, inside the hole, and it has come and crept up and over. And when I was thinking about shim, it's like, what is it, like Benifer and all those, Shane and Kim, right, that I didn't want that climbing up into their existing shrubs. I didn't want it taking over their lantana. So this one, while it was a possibility, I mean, it does have the really cute flowers, right? It, you know, you do have to fuss at it some amount, and it was gonna maybe be more annoying than I thought maybe they were ready for. So that one went on the back burner. But what it would do really well is the Dune sunflower would actually do pretty well with the rocks that they had. So they'll deal with the heat. They'll deal with the fact that like they would give us some nice weed suppressing. So those were some of the ideas. The next one I started thinking about was, well, it looks like my scorpion tail has taken over it, but it is in here, is, you know, pine lane lantana, right? So we do get the yellow flowers. It does create a nice like blanket area. I also thought about scorpion tail too, but I know scorpion tail tends to get this very sad season. That is just, no, we don't want this sad season. Does that look like a shadow, or can you actually see these like ridiculously moldy looking leaves? So I was like, they don't want to go through a sad season, so no scorpion tail. And then the lantana, well, I was like, this could work. They already got lantana up there, and it just might feel a little too like, did we do something different? Was that really fun? It would help some of the, you know, bees that are already in my yard, you know, expand some of their territory, but I don't know. I also thought about, when I was thinking about ground cover, is I started thinking about porterweed, right? I have that native porterweed. It has done a really good job expanding. It's a host plant to our little tiny blue Cassius butterflies. I thought that might be a really nice, but then, you know, it does spread quite a bit. Now, they would probably be totally willing to knock it back, you know, every season. But I just thought, maybe not. Maybe that's something that like later on, based on the final design, if they want to add it in to help with weed suppressing. But it does need some amount of weeding regularly. So this was a thing that was like a maybe. Maybe we would do a porterweed. But remember, I'm trying to push that we get some other plants, because you know what? The more diversity of plants, the more wildlife we can support. So this wasn't a no. It was just kind of like a So when I look at their area already, I mean, with these type of palms, I mean, we're looking tropical, right? We're looking like a tropical, lush kind of garden. And so that's where I was staying. So this kind of knocked out some of the plants that we originally thought about when I was at the nursery, because I was like, silver tones. One, we've got the grayish blue house. Two, the silver tones, right? While they would kind of match these shrubbies. I don't know if I'm pointing to them. Those ones right there. Those ones have a little bit of a silver tone. You know, overall, this is tended to stay kind of more in that herbaceous, bright greens, dark leaves, not in an evergreen. So we wanted to keep kind of in that vein. So that's where my mind was going. We're feeling Florida, but we're feeling like we got a sense of the tropics. Maybe thinking, why didn't you talk about doing like a wildflower bed? Come on, Jacqueline, like yours is looking awesome. Well, here's the thing, wildflower beds are annual beds, which means right from the maintenance side, you put a lot of stuff in, it goes through its seasons. We know that wildflowers can have their season where they're not looking so cute. And I didn't want to get them into the whole weed pulling stuff. Like I feel like as a beginner, we're not beginning here. We move into this later on. If you're thinking about beginning here, that's cool. That's your choice. But because we were talking about landscape design, as a starting spot, I was like, I don't want to have them dealing with like this shenanigans. And also because you may, depending, right, because they've got the rocks, they may need to reinstall plants year over year over year. And that's not where I wanted to start them. If they later on come back to me and are like, hey, we want a wildflower garden, then like, sure, heck yeah, I'll do it for you. So, yeah. So one of the other plants that I was thinking about, because we have that already have like a hedge and then we can have some space to do like a lower hedge. One of the ones that I was considering was this yellow top. This one has gotten huge. Remember this was one plant? One plant. And it's spreading. And this is why I decided, no, maybe not. Because it's really cute, but like honestly, this is kicking up weeds in my yard and Mr. Cliff's yard. But Mr. Cliff likes that. Mr. Cliff likes when I give him free plants, intentionally or unintentionally. But I didn't think Shane and Kim were quite ready for that. So we did not go for that. Because I was thinking, what could be kind of, remember, low maintenance, pretty, they're busy. We want to get them excited about Florida native plants. Okay, what else? But here's the thing. We've done so much work about butterflies, so much work on butterflies. And I kept thinking, you know, there's a list, right? I have a list of plants that I'm always like, when can I get those in my yard? Where am I going to put them in my yard? And there was one that I just kept thinking about. And also, who saw Encanto? Who loves Encanto? Who loves all the yellow butterflies? Me. And guess what? We could get easily some of these yellow butterflies that are flying around here all the time, the cloudless sulfurs, orange bars, yellow dog faces. We get them most of the year. So for them to also get butterflies in their yard, super easy. So one of the things that I proposed to them was, let's take that space, let's look at it, and we'll do kind of a lower set of plants, and then let's add something very lush to the corners with the palms. So what did I choose for the corners? And they like this idea. This is going to be the cassia, the Bahama cassia. So host plant for all those different yellow butterflies, orange bars, cloudless sulfurs, yellow dog faces. If it's yellow, they like this stuff. What's cool about this is, unlike my Cassia fistula, which still has not flowered yet, these will actually flower the next year. And they're gonna hold their flowers for a good chunk of the year with some really pretty flushes during the year. The flowers are gonna be about this big. They're gonna be a very, like, not like a yellow, like when you think fall yellow. We're talking more of that tropical yellow, right? And because we wanna have that tropical feel, the look of these flowers, we love this look. So now, there are different types of cassias and privets that you can add to get the same kind of look. The reason I went with this is because they're a little bit more compact for the space that we're going to go with. What we wanted to do is create some symmetry. I thought about looking at adding a third one in the middle, right? Because you kind of have that middle space. But with the standard classic landscaping looks, when I've even put together the proposal, I didn't put any types of proposals that had like that middle space. What this is going to do for them is it can handle the heat of those rocks. They're only going to need to prune it once every 3 months, maybe once every 6 months. This is not going to be high maintenance for them. This isn't going to be something they're going to have to fuss with it a lot. And they're going to get butterflies. And I think for their little boy, I think for their enjoyment, they're going to really enjoy having those yellow butterflies come zipping through all the time. It's going to be really cool. And then having those really pretty tropical looking flowers. And this is the cool thing, is you can have flowers that look beautiful and tropical that are still native. Doing native, especially in Florida, does not mean that you're like relegated to some boring plants. There are some really gorgeous looking plants. So Cassia Bahama going into their yard. Now let's talk about that lower space. So I actually put together a couple different proposals for them, but where I finally landed that I thought would give them a look, right? It would look nice. It could generally keep out some of those weeds. I wouldn't have to break in too much of the space. Wouldn't be crazy to like deal with. Something that they're going to maybe do something for once every 6 months, once a year. not a big deal. That's where we're gonna go with the basically what's going in the middle there, and that's gonna be this plant. Next up is gonna be muhly grass. Now this is gonna definitely give like you're on the edge of the seashore look for a lot of the year. It's gonna be greenish like this. This is kind of what it's gonna look like. It's gonna fill in a lot more, a lot bigger. But the coolest thing, if you don't know muhly grass, you're gonna know muhly grass, because come the fall, it gets its flowers and seeds on it, and it gets this pinkish purple. I mean, I just want you to envision this. I'll show you what kind of the design I put together looked like. The proposal that I sent to them. Oh, yay. But this is how I tried to help them get to see like what they could have. If you don't know what muhly grass looks like, just imagine that, all that beauty. It's a fluffy cloud of pink purple. Oh, it's gonna be so pretty. We went back and forth a little bit about this because they were like, could we get something with flowers? This is where I threw out some ideas like, well, what about a compact ixora? If you've ever seen ixora, I've shown it in the backyard when I've done like the tropical plant tour. I'll link that video down below. But there are some compact versions of ixora. It's exotic, but it is a Florida friendly plant. And it will attract some butterflies and some bees. So I do feel like that would have been a good add-in. We could have looked at like a compact firebush, also would have brought in pollinators, also good for the birds. So I thought there were some other options that we could look at, but then they finally kind of just came back. They're like, nah, we're just overthinking it. Just, let's go with the muhly grass. And I was like, okay. Having trouble now imagining what this is all gonna look like. Okay, so you've seen a couple pages that I've shown you of like what I put together for Kim and Shane. And basically at the end, this is kind of what it's gonna look like. I'm so type A. They were like, you don't need to do that. And I was like, yeah, but I want you to be able to see my vision in my head. And the only way I can think to do it is put together a PowerPoint slide really easily and quickly using a picture of your house. And there you go. That's what it's gonna look like. So they went with that. I thought that was a good choice. That was my favorite choice. That's why I put it as design one. So the first thing we do before we install these new plants is we really do need to clean up this bed of all the different weeds and get them out of here, because we don't want them seeding, or the ones that have seeded, we need to clean it up, make it a little bit nicer, and then we'll install the new plants. So let's go do that now. This is why I don't like rock mulch. Last plant. So hot. Oh gosh. So we're done installing. Clearly my hands are a mess. I got a little bit of cleaning up to do. Shane came out, super nice, helped me get rid of all the weeds and the mess. And then he's gonna take my advice. He's gonna put some mulch down so that he doesn't have to use herbicides in the area anymore, have some natural fertilizing happening, so that'll be awesome. He'll only have to apply it once a year, so that's great. And I'm excited. I'm exhausted, but I'm excited. But I cannot wait to see how this goes. We will definitely be doing a check-in to make sure we see like all the butterflies. I can't wait to see them coming over here. So if you want to learn more about Florida native wildflowers, check out this Florida native plant landscaping project I did a couple years ago. Check out this. And then if you want to know about butterfly gardening, a whole bunch of videos over here. And YouTube thinks you want to see this. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.